2022 was a very interesting year for gaming for me personally because it felt like there weren't many great games that were released this year. In fact, it just felt like there were a lot of good games released this year. It's been quite a weird one because normally there are like a good handful of really standout games which are going to be on like a lot of people's top 5, top 10 lists. But I feel like this year there's going to be so many different types of games appearing on people's lists, which in some ways is a good thing, but again, it's just one of those weird years where there's a bunch of good games, but I'll probably forget some of these in like a year or 2 years time, just because I was like, oh yeah, they did come out, or oh, that was a thing. But enough of that, let's get on to my top 5 games for 2022. Starting this list, we have Ghostwire Tokyo. A game which I started actually playing very late into this year, in fact pretty much the end of December I played this game. But it's going to stick with me for a while because of just how amazing the world was to explore. It's one of those open worlds which aren't particularly massive, but is so condensed with stuff to do that you're never feeling yourself bored or just roaming around for no reason. There's always something to do, a new task, a new ghost to go speak to just to find out what had happened, or just to find more lore and more different bits and pieces to uncover within the world, and it's just a pleasure to go around. It reminds me of what Fatal Frame could be if it relied less on fan service and more on engaging gameplay and lore. The world itself looks beautiful, and this is enhanced by the atmospheric music, so you can't help but feel more immersed as you are progressing through, just going around different buildings, and whether you're going inside the buildings or jumping on top of them, you just feel like you really are in Tokyo. The downside is you are taken out of this immersion because the game is very unoptimized, and you'll have constant frame drops and just bizarre effects happening on your screen, causing some weird blurriness that you cannot get rid of even if you go into the INI files. At number 4 we have Golden Light, a disgustingly appealing video game. Without a doubt, Golden Light has had the biggest impact on my brain box this entire year. Like, once I first played it, I just could not get it out of my head. It really does hit on that one more run sensation, while trying to uncover the mystery behind why your girlfriend has suddenly disappeared and gone into this meat world. It's a very difficult game to explain because of just how unique it is. And it's just one of those games which I fully recommend that you play it to get the real experience. The movement feels completely janky and broken. The combat is so unintuitive. Couple that with eating your own weapons and throwing exploding fetuses, this game really does stand out. There is a downside, however. The game can be super tough because you have decided to kill a few too many enemies and the world decides that you need to die. This can be incredibly infuriating when you're just trying to progress through the story because you are sick of doing very similar floors and runs every single time, only to die at pretty much the same stage to then start it all over again. Up next at number 3 we have Forgive Me Father. This has a very gritty yet very eye-catching art style. Are you noticing a trend from some of these games? The combat itself is extremely satisfying. Like, every weapon feels amazing to use. The enemy designs as well are so fully fleshed out and feel so different compared to each other. The boss fights themselves are also memorable, especially those that decide to take up the entirety of your screen. You really do feel like you're against the world when you're literally looking around just to find that one tiny weak point on a gigantic boss. And the level designs are so very well made, except for 1 or 2 sections which soured the experience a little bit. Moving on to number 2, we have Soul Hackers 2, a solid cast of characters in this somewhat disappointing JRPG. It wasn't short of great mechanics, however. The Sabbath system is a great all-out attack alternative from the Persona series. Being able to do that very familiar battle-ending move, but with added effects like trying to poison the extra enemies or heal your own party, is a great little twist on an already very clever idea. The beautiful world design was like premium butter on toast, except for your eyes. It also retains that PS2 era of Shin Megami Tensei goodness, for better or for worse. This is very apparent when it comes to the level layout issues and the extremely formulaic pattern the game follows throughout a very decent story. And now for my number one game of 2022, it's Neon White. It has to be. I was massively invested from literally the main menu thanks to the music. This is without a doubt the best soundtrack of any game for 2022. It feels like speedrun strats, the game. You get that dopamine hit with every single level thanks to how short they are. Again, another game that just wants to let you have that one more try mentality throughout just to get those platinum medals. These action sequences are separated by a very mysterious plot and some incredibly well written funny dialogue. And visually, for whatever reason, this looks like a AAA GameCube game to me. Whether it's because you're going from that hand-drawn visual novel style, then straight to what looks like something out of Killer 7 during the action sequences, it really did just hit that note of the old school consoles. And there we have it. That is my top 5 games for 2022. There are some honourable mentions. The first game being Nightmare of the Cave, an old school style Resident Evil game which had a great vibe and atmosphere and really did capture that retro style, but it just didn't have enough content in it to make me put it up into my top 5. Next we have Super Bullet Break. Honestly, I was very surprised about this game. I was intrigued, but this actually exceeded my expectations. It's a card-based, turn-based JRPG, except they're called bullets instead. Again, this is just another one which is a very roguelike system, which can be very frustrating unless you get the perfect deck, and I mean the perfect deck, to then proceed in the levels. Otherwise, you will be retrying again and again and again. And the final honourable mention goes to Skirt Ritual. If you enjoy that wave-based horde mode, zombie mode of Call of Duty, then you will love this game. There are plenty of skills, plenty of upgrades, and also story missions within it to just keep you interested and keep you going, instead of it just being that same thing of, okay, I'll run around in a circle and keep shooting the zombies that way. The enemies feel so different and varied, and there are even boss enemies throughout each of the waves. It really was a great game, but just didn't have enough in it, again, to reach my top 5. Thanks as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed this list. I enjoy playing all of these games, and I'm very curious to see what was on your list. What was your top 5 games of 2022? Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.